Good morning, my dear students. Now you are observing a well grown crop in the agricultural field. We all know that we get energy from food. The basically food we get energy is from plants. In this pyramid, at the first tropic level, you are observing producers, that is autotrophs, self-preparing food by the plants in the process of photosynthesis. We get energy from the plants. Plants also need energy because it is a living thing. Plants produces food by a process called photosynthesis. As you studied at your lower classes, photosynthesis is a process where plant uses carbon dioxide, water, sunlight, that means solar energy, and the energy organelle chloroplast. There the food is synthesized. The food name is starch. We get energy from starch. Plant also need some nutrients. Small amount is called micronutrients, and a larger amount nutrients are called macronutrients, such as carbon, nitrogen. They are all comes under macronutrients. Here in this chart, you can see the various nutrients name: calcium, iron, copper, molybdenum, potassium, nitrogen, manganese, sulfur, phosphorus, etc. The deficiency of these nutrients results adverse effects on plants. Mainly the core energy is chlorophyll, that is well green color. When the deficiency of these nutrients, the green color pales. The upper layer of the leaf skin is called epidermis. On that the color fails and wilt and drop, sometimes yellowish. Phosphorus, potassium, nitrogen is very important for this well growth of plants. Phosphorus deficiency, plant shortens and dark green becomes pale, bronze color it appears. Even nitrogen deficiency results stunting growth of plants. The plants will not grow. Early maturation, the axil of leaf will be weakened and upright leaves with light green yellowish appear, burnt in extreme deficiency. Now you can see these two bananas. One is full joy mode, another is very sad. By this picture one can say the laughing banana is with rich nutrients, and another banana, because of lack of nutrients, it is very sad. A funny picture you are observing now. As I told earlierly, the one more picture you are observing, signs of nutrient deficiency. As I told earlier, this leaf yellowish of tips and edges, manganese deficiency, elongated holes When you see holes on the leaf, that indicates the manganese deficiency. Calcium, nitrogen, carbon dioxide, phosphorus, magnesium, manganese, potassium, iron, these are all very important nutrients for the growth of plants. So, no soil can provide all nutrients. So, we have to provide additionally by organic fertilizers. This organic fertilizers is natural fertilizer where the animal waste as well as plant waste are dumped into pit, and it is allowed for decomposition more than 3 weeks, and it is used as a fertilizer. Here you can see animal cow dung. It is also called organic fertilizers. This picture, household compost, we can prepare compost at our house itself. So, it contains large container. You can collect the food waste, cut into small size, filter the water, input the food waste into the bucket and add some sugar. It avoids, reduces odor. After 3 weeks, you can discharge the waste out and cover it with leaves and soil in your backyard. After about 1 month, you can feel the warming on the top of your compost. Repeat the steps of above and continue to stack up. And these fellows, they are applying organic manures on the agricultural field. This picture shows, even though we provide organic manures, all the nutrients at proper percentage may not provide to the plants. In the organic manure, even though it has rich nutrients and the soil fertility, humus increases, but all the nutrients cannot be provided by the organic manure or compost. To overcome this, man invented chemical fertilizers. Chemical fertilizers like urea, DAP, diammonium phosphate, potassium murate, etc. and etc. They provide nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium at proper percentage. All the crops may not require the same percentage. It depends on the species and variety of crops. Some crops need more nitrogen and some needs more phosphorus and goes on. Here these persons, they are applying weedicides, weed control chemicals. You know, weeds are unwanted plants that grows amidst at the main crop. It fights for sunlight, food, water, shelter, and these weeds, unwanted plants, finally occupies all the facilities obtained to the main crops. This picture shows the pests are eaten on the leaves. So, we apply pesticides as well as insecticides, many chemicals we are applying, and these chemicals somehow it won't affect to the main crop and it only kills the enemies, that is pest, insects, weeds, etc. Here also this is the one container how to spray the chemicals, but the person who applies the chemicals, he has to take care, he has to cover his face, precaution measure, as prescribed by authorities, he has to dilute the chemicals according instructions given by the authorities. Now this picture shows you the bacteria, Nostoc bacteria. This bacteria takes nitrogen directly from the atmosphere because plants does not takes nitrogen even though it is present about 79%. This is because nitrogen will be in the molecular state. So this bacteria fixes nitrogen on the roots of legume plants. Legume means dicot seeds like tamarind, groundnut, soybeans, like that. You can see the knots on the roots. Inside that knots, purely nitrogen is present. Plant uses nitrogen to synthesize protein. It make use of nitrogen for the synthesis of protein. This is how the rhizobium bacteria takes nitrogen directly from the atmosphere. Now you can see these differences between fertilizers versus manure chart. Fertilizer is an organic salt. Manure is a natural substance obtained by the decomposition of cattle, dung, human waste and plant residues. Fertilizers are prepared in the factories, larger scale. Manure can be prepared in the field. Even at your home, you can prepare compost. A fertilizer does not provide any humus to the soil, but manure provides. Fertilizers are very rich in plant nutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium. Manure is relatively less rich in plant nutrients. Now, after applying all these things, we need water should be supplied. As we know, water is universal solvent. Majority of the substance dissolves in water. Here also the nutrients and what I mean to say fertilizers, many chemicals that dissolves in water. So then only root absorbs minerals, nutrients through water. So we use water in the field of agriculture. The term is irrigation. Irrigation means
why do plants need water? The same reasons for which humans need water. Water constitutes a major part of the plant body. This water helps plants to transport the nutrients in their body and is quite important for the growth of the plant. How do plants get their water? The roots help the plant absorb the water from the soil. It indicates that moist soil would mean a continuous supply of water to plants. Do you know that the plants need water right from their germination? Have you heard people say that the seeds will wither away if there is no water? After sowing, seeds need water to germinate, and that's precisely why farmers sow seeds before the rains. But what if there are no rains? How do plants then get water? Irrigation is the solution to this problem. The supply of water to crops at specific intervals is known as irrigation. We need to understand that plants need water more than anything else. Water acts as a shield against the extremities of nature like frost or hot currents. No doubt, water is of foremost importance to the crop. That is why we will study irrigation as a process of production. Do you know what irrigation depends on? Can you guess? Yes, it depends on the soil type. And what according to you will the frequency of irrigation depend on? Can you guess? Yes, it does depend on the season. During summer, soil is devoid of moisture. This is because the heat leads to a higher rate of evaporation. That is why we need to irrigate the fields frequently during the summer months. During the monsoons, there is a little need for irrigation. Now let us look at the sources of irrigation. What are the sources of irrigation? Ponds, wells, lakes, dams, rivers are various water bodies that help supply water for irrigation. However, the methods of irrigation have changed over the years. In irrigation, water is lifted from water bodies and then carried to the fields. In the traditional method, who do you think does the work of lifting the water? It's the cattle or humans who lift water from these sources. These methods were inexpensive for the farmers but were not quite efficient. Let us take a quick look at a few traditional methods of irrigation first. We will look at the moat or pulley system, a chain pump, dhekli and Rahat, which is a lever system. The first system is where water is pulled out of water source with the help of a pulley. The pulley can be moved in several ways to then carry the bucket of water to different places in the field. But this kind of irrigation requires human labor. There is also another problem of uneven distribution of water. Thus, this type of irrigation is less efficient. What about the next type? A chain pump? This is an interesting method. A bucket is tied to a wheel and this wheel is pulled by a chain. This wheel is placed above a water body. The wheel, when it turns, lets water to be collected inside the bucket. This bucket then pours the water out when it comes onto the top. Water then flows into the field in the man-made canal-like system. Here as well, human labor may be required to pull the chain. What about the dhekli? This system of irrigation requires two people or a load needs to be kept attached to the log. Which log? Can you see that V-shaped log is fixed to the ground in an erect manner? Now there is another log that is placed between its forked branch. This log has a bucket attached to one end. When the log is moved, it helps lower the bucket and get a bucket full of water from the well. This water is then dropped into a narrow canal-like system that waters the fields. This method leads to wastage of water. Now what about the last system? The Rahat system? This is a 1,300-year-old method of irrigation which now is almost extinct. This one requires two wheels. One wheel is attached with several buckets all around its circumference and is placed halfway inside the water body. The other is placed on the ground with a rod attached to it. This rod is placed horizontally. It can be made to move in a circle. Usually, cattle are made to operate the system. Humans do it at times too. When the rod is moved in a circular manner, it rotates the two wheels in turn. The wheel, which is inside the water body, collects water into the buckets and deposits it onto the surface. Canal-like systems then carry the water to different parts of the field. Wasn't this wonderful to learn? But do these methods exist even today? Well, we'll find that out in our next lesson. There we will study the modern methods of irrigation.
Method you have seen the garden sprinkling method. Water sprinkles at wide area, even top of the plants and even roots plant gets water. And this is very domesticated purpose and a valuable method, and also economically it is very useful, and plant gets water drop by drop. So water will not be evaporated by the sun heat. So this method is called drip irrigation. Wow, what a fabulous corn you are observing. After irrigation, after applying manures, fertilizers, now the method is harvesting. So before harvesting, we use another fertilizer called vermicompost. Earthworm we are using. Earthworm softens the soil and the soil becomes very soft. like our facial powder. This soft soil is called humus, and it contains rich nitrogen, magnesium, sodium, zinc, copper. So plant make use this humus for its growth. Now it is the right time for cutting the crops. Cutting the crops is called harvesting. By sickle, these people cuts the harvest. They separate seeds from the main grass, and that can be done by a separate machine, as you are observing on this image is called combiner. This combiner separates seeds and hawk, tusk, straw. The outer covering is removed, and separately it can be dumped into another vehicle. This machine is called combiner. After all this process, finally the grains are stored in grain silos. In this grain silos, the grains are stored. The grains storing method is also an important thing, because grains may destroy by the rodents, rats, squirrels, birds, even in the temperature, humidity, dust. So it is our prime concern and a prime duty to storing the grains or food. This is also a challenging issue. So here highly scientifically it has built by steel fibers and coating with copper, so rodents cannot penetrate, and under controlled conditions we are controlling temperature, humidity, pressure, whatever the external factors that protects the crop. All this can be controlled in the grain silos. Large storage of grains is done in silos to protect from pests like rats and insects. Dried neem leaves are used for storing and grains at home. For storing large quantities of grains in big godowns, specific chemical treatments are required to protect them from pests and microorganisms. Finally, we go through animal husbandry. So rearing domesticating animals is called animal husbandry at large scale. Cattle, goat, sheep, cow, ostrich, birds are all the domesticating animals and birds. Many people living in coastal areas consume fish, as you know. It is the major part of the diet. So you have learnt about the food, what we obtain from plants. We have just seen that the process of crop production involves a number of steps like selection of seeds, sowing, irrigation, soil management, organic manures. After all these things, we come to conclusion that crops are very important. We have to take care of them, and finally crops take care us, take care on our health. Okay, my dear students, I hope you understood this first chapter. Please take down home an assignment. We will meet the next class. Coming chapters can be covered. Thank you. Have a nice day.